I move by psychokinetic power.
The forest stank of ash and ozone. 9 hours since the first shells fell. 9 hours since the sky turned red and the cities burned to the ground. What forced its way through the trees now was a column of the broken, Astartes blackened and scarred, guardsmen half mad with exhaustion, civilians dragging children and corpses alike, an inquisitor, priests, the wreckage of a world, still moving only because chaos was behind them. The chapter master marched at the head. His right arm was gone, torn away hours before, the stump sealed by scorched ceremony. He still carried his blade in the other hand, blood and oil slicking the edge, each step heavier than the last. Even crippled, he was a figure the column clung to, proof that someone could still stand against the dark. The sound came first, engines growling, iron grinding through the forest. Trees split and toppled as a predator crashed into view, its hull slick with the marks of the dark gods, its weapons already burning hot. The Lascannons fired. 2 spears of light hammered through the air. They hit the chapter master square, burning away his upper chest and half his skull in an instant. 1 second he was there, a giant in warplane, and the next there was only a smouldering ruin of meat and ceremony, a hole where a man had been. He fell like dead weight, face half gone, armor still steaming, blade dropping useless into the dirt. The column shattered. Civilians screamed and bolted into the trees. Guardsmen stumbled in every direction, some firing blindly, others too stunned to move. Bolters cracked as the Astartes threw themselves into a firing line, emptying magazines into the predator to buy seconds. An inquisitor didn't stop, didn't kneel, didn't even glance at the corpse. He just screamed for the retreat to keep moving. Leave the body. Run. Their master was gone, erased in a heartbeat. There was nothing left to bury, nothing left to carry. Just a hole in the line and the sound of chaos closing in. The forest pressed in on them, suffocating and blackened with ash. Smoke clung to armor and clothing, filling lungs with grit. Every step was a battle. Guardsmen stumbling over roots, civilians dragging the wounded, some screaming, some silent with fear. The weight of exhaustion pressed on shoulders, knees, and hearts alike. There was no hope, only movement, forced forward by the relentless certainty that stopped and death. Shapes moved in the shadows at the edge of the trees. Twisted men, broken animals, minor demons darting between trunks. The air rang with snapping branches, hissing and distant screams. Bolters cracked, laser guns flared, Marines firing over the heads of fleeing civilians to keep the worst of the swarm at bay. Each shot drew attention, each miss a reminder that every step forward was bought with blood. The survivors staggered onward, blind and frantic, driven by panic and the knowledge that chaos would tear anyone who lagged behind to pieces. The river appeared next, black and frothy, the metal bridge spanning in bent and scarred, groaning under the column's weight. Survivors scrambled across, slipping on slick beams, children crying, guardsmen forcing the slower ones forward. Chaos closed in on the river. Twisted forms swarmed the end of the line, clawing, snapping, dragging men into the underground. Marines leaned over the sides of the bridge where they could, firing into the pursuing horrors, holding the tail of the line long enough for the others to gain distance. Near the back of the column, a wounded guardsman stumbled onto the bridge. He was one of the last to cross, and behind him, the chaos creatures were closing fast, claws and teeth snapping at the rear of the line. He paused, clutching the melter charge in his hands, scanning the bridge in a fraction of a second. Enough had crossed. Too few. There was no time to no way to stop the swarm from spilling into the bridge. He pressed the detonator against his chest and let it fire. The explosion tore the metal apart, twisting beams and sending debris into the river below. Chaos forces tumbled with it, carried away in fire and water. The Guardsmen went with them, gone in the flash. Necessary. Nothing else. The survivors who made it to the far bank lay shaking, mud and ash coating their armor and clothes, limbs trembling from exhaustion. Some were lost to the river, some to the claws and teeth of chaos. Some simply collapsed where they landed. Marines kept their heads down, bolters barking sporadic fire into the trees, holding the line as the column reformed. A guardsman groaned, gripping a child in his arms and spat. "We can't! Keep up!" Another screamed back. "They're right behind us!" A Marine barked. "Hold the line! Keep moving!" The Inquisitor's voice cut through the oppressive forest, sharp and unforgiving. "No excuses! Forward, every last one of you, or you die here!" Through the trees, jagged towers glimmered, alien runes etched across impossible stone. The Eldar ruins waited silently, patient and unreadable, as the survivors pressed onward, each step heavier than the last. For a few fleeting moments, the column moved more freely. The press of chaos slowed, giving space to breathe, however briefly. Lungs burned, limbs trembled, hearts hammered, but the survivors pushed on. Nothing was safe, but the weight of pursuit had eased, if only slightly. Across the far side of the ruined bridge, flashes of fire cut through smoke. Marines and civilians twisted in the shadows, firing, falling, vanishing. One guardsman crumpled as claws tore through his chest, still thrashing and striking in hand-to-hand combat. Another was grabbed and dragged into the melee, bolter and knife still raised. Each desperate strike not heroism, just the raw will to live a few seconds longer. The forest shimmered with fleeting, chaotic glimpses of death. Screams, bolter flashes, the arc of thrown grenades, all swallowed as quickly as they appeared. A civilian man, already fraying at the edges of his mind, screamed at the top of his lungs. "It's all over. All is lost." His voice cracked and echoed through the trees. An Inquisitor said nothing. He raised his sidearm, and the shot rang out. The man fell. Without pause, the column pressed onward, each step heavier than the last. The survivors forced distance between themselves and the unseen horrors behind. Sporadic bursts of gunfire rang out as Marines and Guardsmen covered the rear. A bolt hitting a cultist in the skull. A grenade taking two fleeing civilians at once. A Marine dragged down by clawing demons, fighting still as the undergrowth swallowed him whole. Priests muttered half-remembered litanies between ragged breaths. Guardsmen shouted orders to one another in broken, frantic bursts. And somewhere a child cried out for their mother, only to be hushed and carried on. The Inquisitor's voice cut through the haze again, sharp and relentless. "Move!" The ruins loomed closer, alien and immense. Jagged towers carved with runes shimmered faintly, the stones groaning with an ancient weight. The column began to gather within the shattered courtyards. Marines and a few surviving officers directing the civilians inward. Las fire and bolter rounds snapping through the trees as chaos pressed once more at their heels. "Have you still got the device?" the Inquisitor demanded of a priest. "Yes," the priest panted, clutching it tight as he ran toward the edge of the ruins. Hurry! We don't have much time, the Inquisitor barked after him, his voice cutting over the thunder of bolter fire and the screams of the wounded. The ground shook. One of the great Eldar structures shuddered and began to glow, runes sparking to life with cold, alien fire. As if answering some ancient call, the air split apart, folding in on itself. A webway portal yawned open, its light flickering across the broken faces of the survivors. Through! All of you, through! A Marine captain roared, forcing the column toward the opening. Civilians stumbled, shoved, fell. Guardsmen fired blindly into the trees as they backed toward the light. Marines formed a ragged perimeter, pouring fire into the swarm that closed around them. The column spilled into the portal in chaos. Some carried, some dragged, some diving headlong into the impossible light. Cultists broke through with them, screaming as they crossed, clawing and hacking at the survivors in the frozen wasteland beyond. Bolters barked, laser guns flared, and the cultists were cut down one by one, their blood steaming on the ice. The priest with the device stumbled through last, turning even as he crossed. His hands worked the mechanism, his face pale but steady. With a wrenching crack, the portal collapsed, folding in on itself until there was nothing left but cold air and silence. No one could follow. What remained of the columns staggered together in the alien cold. A handful of civilians huddled together, clutching children or dragging the injured, silent and shaking. The guardsmen who survived were bloodied, limping and ragged, some nursing deep wounds from claws, fire and falling debris. The Marines were fewer still, battered and scarred, one missing an arm, another limping in shattered ceremony, and one more lying against a jagged ice formation. A huge hole gaping across his side, blood seeping onto the frozen ground. Two priests whispered the last of their prayers, while scattered officers and support personnel trailed in behind, weary and hollow-eyed. The bitter relief of having somehow made it through pressed against them, but beneath it lingered the unspoken thought, wondering what comes next.
I move by psychokinetic power.